Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for watching my videos. If you are enjoying my videos, please do share them. Please do continue to make dua for me, and please make dua for each other. There are people watching this channel and there are people watching this video who are suffering in their own problems in their own lives. Please make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala eases their worries, relieves them of their difficulties and problems, answers their du'as, fulfills their dreams, and removes obstacles and challenges and difficulties from their lives. Say Ameen. Ameen. Today's story is set about 10 years ago, May 2014. I was being held in a Supermax prison in the state of Connecticut on the east coast of the United States. I had been held in prison for 10 years by that point, and I had no idea how much longer I was going to be held in prison. I was the Supermax prison. I've described it earlier. It is a prison which is complete solitary confinement, and I was being held next to death row. Death row actually had a better prison regime than I did, and I was being held in this prison where no prisoners are kept in complete isolation, and they are not allowed to associate or mix with any other prisoner. So you're just there in your cell by yourself all the time. Now, it was towards the end of my legal process, and I was getting legal visits every day. The paralegal, her name was Betty, an American lady, a fantastic lady. She used to come every day, morning and afternoon. She used to come to visit me, and once or twice or three times a week, my attorney, whose name was a young lady named Kelly, she would come to see me. So one afternoon, Betty came to see me in the legal visits room, and she showed me a document, and she said, "This is a document that the US government has filed with the court in your case, and we have to give a response by the morning. So if you have any instructions or anything to give me, I can take those notes, and when I leave the prison, then I'll phone Kelly, or I'll put it in an email and I'll give it to her." So I went through that document, and whatever came to my mind on the spot, I gave it to Betty, and then she presumably would have sent the information to Kelly. Now, when I got back to my cell, I was reading through the document, and then suddenly I had an idea. Well, not actually an idea, but suddenly I had the realization that there is one document in all the case files, and that will help Kelly, my attorney, to respond to this letter in an absolute, perfect manner. The problem was, how do I tell Kelly that this is the document that she needs when there are more than 12 million documents in the case, in the laptop? How am I going to tell her which is the document that she needs? So in normal situation, you're probably confused, thinking, what's the big deal? Just send her a WhatsApp, or just send her an email. Like, what's the big deal? I'm in prison. There's no phones in prison. There's no email access. There's no smartphones, rather. There's no WhatsApp. There's no text. There's no Facebook Messenger. There's none of these things. I am there, and I need to get this message to her. So the first option is I could make a legal phone call. The problem is that I would get 3 phone calls a week, and I would have to book them a week in advance, that I'm going to call on this day and on that time, a 15-minute phone call. I had already used up my quota for that week, so I was not able to make another call. So then I thought, okay, let me ask the lieutenant. Now, in the past, when I've asked the lieutenant to be able to make an important legal call, he's just refused and said, I don't have the authority. I thought, okay, still, let me ask. So I stood at the door. I stood at my window, the window to my door, waiting for the lieutenant, and there was a certain time, maybe around 8 p.m, that the lieutenant would do his rounds. And when he came, I spoke to him. I said, look, there's an urgent issue, and I need to make a quick call to my lawyer. Could you ask one of the officers to let me out and let me make that call? He said, I'm really sorry. He said, I don't have the authority, to give you that. And that was that. So then I thought, okay, now let me see if there's another prisoner that I know and that I trust who may be having a legal visit, and then I can convey the message to this prisoner would tell his lawyer, and then his lawyer would tell Kelly about this document. Now the problem was that I'm being held in a Supermax prison where virtually 99.9% of all the prisoners in this prison have already been convicted of crimes many years ago. Their cases have finished, they have closed. They are not getting legal visits. Some of them 15 years they had not had a legal visit. So it was highly unlikely that a prisoner, and it had to be one that I trust. I couldn't just ask any prisoner. It has to be one that I know and trust, that I could ask. So it was a long shot, but I asked one or two prisoners that I trusted if on the off chance they had a legal visit that evening, and of course they said no. There was another prisoner who was on death row. So death row used to get more because they're going through appeals and appealing against their execution, etc. So they would get more frequent legal visits. So I asked a friend, or I asked through there's a way of communicating where you can blow out water. You can get a toilet roll insert and you blow out water from the sink and you speak and the other person listens. So anyway, somehow I was able to get the message to those a gang member guy, someone that I knew on death row and that I trusted and I had a relationship with. So I sent a message to him that if on the off chance he was going to have a legal visit, and the response came back that he said, I'm sorry, he said, I don't have a legal visit. So what do? I need to tell Kelly that you have to use this document to respond to that letter by the morning. I don't have a smartphone, I don't have email, I don't have a computer, I don't have any means of communicating. I'm being held in isolation in a Supermax prison. I can't phone my attorney. I can't tell another prisoner to convey the message to their lawyer who would convey it to Kelly, because all the other prisoners, none of them are having a legal visit. I mean, some of them would get maybe one legal visit in 3 years, if that, and some hadn't had any for like 15 years. So at that point then, I sat on my prayer mat and I lifted my hands and I made dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I said, Ya Allah, I said, I'm stuck. I said, you have to help me. I said, I can't do this. I said, I've tried everything that I can try. I've tried the phone call. I've spoken to the lieutenant. I've spoken to the prisoners. I've spoken to the guy on death row. I have done everything that I can. And there's nothing more for me to do. You have to do this. You have to tell her that she needs that document, Ya Allah. I said, I can't do this. You have to do this for me, please. I made that dua, and after that I felt this comfort, this peace, as if I had been listened to. You know, sometimes you make dua and you're like not sure, but sometimes you make a dua and somehow you know that dua has been listened to. Anyway, I did that and then I went to sleep. Next morning, the paralegal Betty came and she showed me a letter. She said, here's the letter that Kelly filed in response to the US government regarding your case. When I read that letter, I was absolutely astonished. I could not have written a better letter than Kelly did. And I was confused, like how did she know all the points to respond to and how to do it? It was perfect. It was a masterpiece. So Betty said to me that Kelly's coming to see you in the afternoon, and you can talk to her more about it then. That afternoon, Kelly came to see me and we spoke about the letter, and I asked her that, how did you write a letter like this, responding to the points in the manner that you did? She said, I don't know. She said, it was 10:30 late at night, and this woman was an absolutely fantastic woman. And this young lady, for 2 years, she put her life on hold, and she would work in the mornings and the evenings. She'd come to see me on the weekends, sometimes 2 or 3 times a week, a round trip of about 3 hours. So she said it was late at night, 10:30 at night, and I was on the sofa and I had the laptop, and I was just thinking, how am I going to respond to this letter? And I was going through the laptop, and I was opening folders and files, and I was just a bit stuck. And then she said, for some reason, then something just made me open this particular folder, and when I went there, I went into another folder, then another folder, then another folder. Then there was lots of documents there, and for some reason I just opened a particular document, and it was as if that document had been written for me to respond to this letter. She said, I opened that document and then I typed up a response, and then I submitted it with the court. And then I told her that at that exact moment I made dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I said, Ya Allah, I said, I need your help. Not next week, not tomorrow, not next week, not next month, not next year. Ya Allah, I need your help now, please. I need you to respond to me now. And that's what he did. He responded to me on the spot. You know, we make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All of us have needs. And we make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we know a response is going to come, and we're waiting for it, and we're patient for when the response, and we keep on making dua, and we tell our friends and family, make dua to Allah for this. But sometimes you need Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You need that response immediately. Not in the evening, not tomorrow, not next week, not next month, not next year. You need Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to respond to you immediately. And when you have a situation like that, insist upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Beg Him, plead with Him, and insist with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you will be astonished at how quickly He responds. You know, when you go to a person, when a person has something that you need, and you go to that person and you ask them, and they'll say, okay, yeah, I'll give it to you. Then you go to them again, okay, I'll give it to you. Then when you keep on pleading and insisting with that person, they will, at some point they'll get annoyed that, man, leave me alone, I've got the message. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the more you plead with Him, the more you beg Him, the more you insist upon Him, the more He likes it. Because He knows you're only doing that because, one, you know that He has the power to respond to your request, and number two, you know that He is your Lord, that you are in need of Him and He is not in need of you. And that was one thing. And this story that I mentioned, didn't just happen once. It happened 2 times. It happened another time with something similar, where I had to convey a message to my lawyer and I had no way of doing it. And I made dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He conveyed the message to her, and she prepared a document which was better than I could have done it. That happened on 2 occasions. Talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Talk to Him not just as your Lord and your Creator, but talk to Him as your friend. Talk to Him as your friend. And sometimes, and this was something that I learned in prison, where I would pour my heart out to Him, because I had no one else. I couldn't go to a friend. I couldn't, when something was bothering me or I was worried, especially in America. In the UK, I would knock on a brother's cell and I'd say, brother, I'm feeling down today. Can you please, tell me something to uplift me? But in America, I couldn't do that because I'm in a cell all by myself. And I'm not going to speak about like my private things, go to the door and shout so that several other prisoners and the officers and everyone can hear, and potentially some of them could use that against me. So I was literally by myself, but I would make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I would talk to Him and I would explain to Him my problem and why I needed His help and in what situation. And every single time I would make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala like that, He would respond to me. There's a beautiful quote that the scholar Ibn al-Qayyim, who lived in the 14th century, that he gave about how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He is as-Sami', meaning the all-hearing, what exactly does that mean? You make dua to Allah and lots of people are making dua to Him, and it's like a blur that comes to Him, or the angels send Him all. How does this work? And he said a beautiful quote, and in fact the first time I read this quote was in prison, and someone sent it to me by post, and I just found it again, and I thought I'm just going to read it out to you. So this Ibn al-Qayyim, he's saying about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and how He responds to people's requests. Ibn al-Qayyim said, He hears all voices and does not mistake one for another. He hears them all in all the different languages and with all their varied requests and pleas. No voice distracts him from hearing another. He does not confuse their requests, and he never tires of hearing the pleas of those in need. He sees all that is visible, even the walk of a black ant across a solid rock in the darkest night. The unseen is visible to him, and secrets are known to him. And then he recited the verse in Surah Ar-Rahman, يَسْأَلُهُ مَنْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ كُلَّ يَوْمٍ هُوَ فِي شَأْنٍ فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ. Whosoever is in the heavens and on the earth begs of him of their need, and every day he has a matter to bring forth, such as giving honor to some and giving disgrace to others, giving life to some and giving death to others. That's what it means. Every day he has a matter to bring forth. Whosoever is in the heavens and the earth begs of him of their need. Every day he has a matter to bring forth. So which of the favors of your Lord will the two of you, men and jinn, deny? What is the need that you have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala right now? The urgent one. The one that you need him to respond to immediately. What is that dua that you have been making possibly for years and years and years, and it has not been answered yet? The Prophet ﷺ, he said that everything that you make dua to Allah for, Allah responds except if you are impatient. And the Sahaba asked that, what do you mean impatient? How can you be impatient in making dua? He said, when the person says, you know what, I've made dua, but no response is coming, so he stops making dua. But if only, he stops making dua. So if only you would continue past that point where you are in despair whether your dua is going to be answered. If you just continue making dua after that point, and you insist upon Allah even harder and stronger that you have been making those du'as for even for years, you will be astonished at how quickly Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will respond to you. If you enjoyed this video, please click the like button, click subscribe, and click that small bell to turn on notifications so you may be aware of the next time I upload a video. Until the next video, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.